Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you're new here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button either way if you haven't already. With that being said, the movie we're going to take a look at today from 1981 is a slasher movie. A slasher movie that I've been looking forward to seeing for some time. Mostly because of what I heard about the ending, which is it has an ending that you won't see coming, a killer twist reveal that you won't see coming. So definitely, I've had it in my collection a few years and have been interested in watching it. Finally, did for the first time for this series, and that movie is Happy Birthday to Me, which I have the physical media for, just on the standard DVD. It's the old Anchor Bay edition. Happy Birthday to Me. So yeah, let's talk about it. So, Happy Birthday to Me is a 1981 slasher film directed by J. Lee Thompson. Its plot revolves around brutal murders of the high school members of an elite clique. So, Virginia, or Jenny Wainwright, is a pretty and popular high school senior at Crawford Academy, a member of the school's top 10, an elite clique of the most privileged and popular students. Each night, the group meets at the Silent Woman Tavern, a local pub. One night, en route to the tavern, Bernadette O'Hare is attacked in her car by an unseen assailant. She struggles and plays dead to catch the killer off guard before running to get help. She then runs into an unseen individual whom she is familiar with and begs for help, but the person slashes her neck with a straight razor. The top 10 become concerned when Bernadette fails to arrive at the pub. Upon leaving, the group sees the nearby drawbridge raising and decides to play a game of chicken. Jenny is pushed into the car by Ann Thomerson, and each of the group attempt to cross the bridge as it raises. The car Jenny is in barely clears the bridge, crashes as it meets the other side. Distraught, Jenny runs home, stopping at her mother's grave in an adjacent cemetery. At her home, Eiteen, a top 10 member, breaks into Jenny's room and steals her underwear. Bernadette fails to show up at school the following day. Jenny, who is plagued by repressed memories, visits her on-call psychiatrist, Dr. Faraday, with whom she previously underwent experimental brain tissue restoration procedures after surviving a harrowing accident at the drawbridge. Whew, that's tough to get through. As far as the cast goes, we have Melissa Sue Anderson as Virginia, or I'm going to just say Jenny Wainwright. Glenn Ford as Dr. David Faraday. Lawrence Dane as Harold Hal Wainwright. Sharon Acker as Estelle Wainwright. Frances Hyland as Mrs. Patterson. Tracy E. Bregman as Ann Thomerson. And Jack Blum as Alfred Morris. There's others as well, but I'm not going to go through the whole cast list. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, the beginning, and the cast for Happy Birthday to Me from 1981. To be honest with you, as much as I was looking forward to this movie, I was a little disappointed. I'm going to be honest with you about that. It's not terrible. I'm glad to have it in my collection, and I look forward to rewatching it whenever that happens, much like Possession, which I reviewed a week or two ago and wasn't overly blown away with as a horror movie. But definitely has that same kind of feeling, like I'm really looking forward to rewatching that. Now that I kind of know what to expect in terms of the story, let's go back and see how they did it now and if it jives or not. So looking forward to it from that standpoint, but it's kind of a mixed bag for me, I guess is the best way to say it at the end of the day. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about Happy Birthday to Me. I do think it's a very well-directed movie with good cinematography, good camera work to really set up the mystery aspect of the movie, and as well as the kills too, and good atmosphere that provides the whodunit mystery nature needed in a slasher film like this. I think the performances overall are quite good, especially for this type of movie, a slasher movie during this time in the early 80s. I think that the performances are actually better than most that you get in early 80s slasher movies. Led most of all by Melissa Sue Anderson, as you know, Mary Ingalls is how I'll always know her from Little House on the Prairie. But Melissa Sue Anderson as the lead here is definitely one of the strongest aspects of the movie, as she does really well having us follow her throughout the movie, sympathize with her, and feel for her character to some degree, while not completely trusting her either, because of part of the backstory that we get and stuff going on. But she delivered. I thought she delivered big time in this movie, and I think it's one of the better lead slasher performances, if I'm being honest about it. That doesn't get talked about, certainly. So yeah, Melissa Sue Anderson, very well, very good acting in this movie. But really, like I said, the whole cast is good here. The movie has a kind of a nice blend of giallo in it that also makes it stand apart, with the black gloves and the mystery aspect and the edged razor that's used for a couple of kills. That added some unique vibes to the movie that I was really into. I also feel like that giallo aesthetic also kind of, at least for me, it kind of engages me more in the movie, just with how it's shot, with POV shots and certain angles and things, as well as those giallo aspects that I mentioned. So I did enjoy that aspect of the movie, to sort of separate it from other slashers as well. I thought the scene towards the end of all the corpses sitting around is a creepy and effective visual. Other shows and movies would borrow, if not outright steal, this idea and this kind of scene, with the same sort of idea or visual. But they did it first here, and I thought they did it best. I do like the overall feel and atmosphere in this movie that goes on throughout. Definitely kept me invested. Like I said, part of it's the giallo. Part of it is I just thought the director did a good job of establishing the atmosphere here. It just kind of makes it fun, having that atmosphere, that aesthetic. It just kind of makes you, it's not boring. It kind of makes you invested. So I thought they did a good job there in execution. As far as guessing at who is doing what, with all the red herrings and everything that they provide. And boy, does this movie provide a lot of twists and turns and red herrings, for better or for worse. And we'll get into the worse here as I get into my cons. But there are some fun and unique kills in this movie as well, especially having to do with a dumbbell and a motorcycle, which are two separate kills. Not the same, but just some different, not just a stab slasher, although it does have some of those kills as well. There are some unique kills going on as well in this movie that I enjoyed. And then my final pros, I would say the opening scene, the first 10 minutes or so, as mentioned, having to do with the character of Bernadette O'Hara. I thought it was an effective opening for the movie to kind of foreshadow what you can expect the rest of the movie. It was tense and effective, and it had the giallo aspects, it had the atmosphere, the mystery, right from the jump. I thought it was just a very effective way to start the movie. So those were my pros, the things that I liked most about Happy Birthday to Me from 1981. Of course, you also have that was another kill, the iconic shish kebab here. That's another kill I guess I can mention, along with having to do with a dumbbell and a motorcycle and a shish kebab. Those are the three best kills of the movie. Otherwise, I think the other ones are slash or stab. So anyway, we just wanted to mention that, given the cover that a lot of people associate it with this movie. As far as cons go, I don't know. I never felt that the movie came together in any sort of coherent or credible way. They set a lot of things up. They threw a lot of stuff out there, a lot of interesting ideas and backstory, but at the end of the day, it never really came together. And not only did it not come together in the end, how we got to the end too was a little bit wonky for me. It just didn't entirely work. Sometimes I thought the pacing was good, and then it suddenly would stop abruptly, and the pacing would be off, which ultimately throws off the effectiveness of the overall story. And I felt like that was the biggest problem here. I don't think the story overall was as effective, because there's so much going on. There's so many different red herrings, so many different side stories, things that they introduce that don't really go anywhere with. And that kind of threw the pacing off, and therefore the pacing being off at certain points in the movie threw off the entire overall effectiveness of the story. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It does in my own mind, but that was really the biggest fault with this movie, is it just didn't, there's not an effective through line. There's not a coherence to this movie. And as a result, the movie runtime is also too long. I think this movie, what did it say? This movie was, It's basically just under 2 hours long, which I don't know about you, but when I'm sitting down to watch a slasher movie, I don't need a 2 hour movie. I think it was 111 minutes or something. I don't need Inception in my slasher movies. And this movie again, it runs that long because of those things that I just mentioned with all the different plot twists and the characters and the different backstory aspects that they introduce. And I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to throw a lot of different red meat in the water, to throw people off, to have some fun with it. And I get that, and I can appreciate that on a certain level. But it's got to work. It's got to work better than it did in this movie, at least in my opinion. So yeah, the runtime, 111 minutes, should have been about 20 minutes shorter. I'm a 90 to 98 minute slasher guy. That's kind of where I live. If it's shorter than 90 minutes but still works, that's fine. If it's a little bit more than 98 minutes, like 100 minutes, that's fine. But 111 minutes, you're kind of pushing it. You really would have to knock it out of the park for me. And this movie just doesn't do that. And sometimes for a slasher movie, a simple storyline is better than trying to make it other things as well, trying to be convoluted and complex. You don't need to be complex when it comes to a slasher movie. And I think this movie would have been better served, actually, if it simplified things a little bit more. They threw a few too many twists in the last half of the movie as well. Like you get a big twist in the end of the second act that you kind of would probably see coming at that point, saying, oh, okay, yeah, with what they set up and everything, I could sort of understand and see that. So I had that pegged, but no, you didn't, actually, because there's a couple other twists, including the final reveal twist at the very end of the movie. And sometimes when you throw a few too many breadcrumbs out there, all of a sudden you don't want breadcrumbs anymore. And I just think this movie tried to do too much, and it could have kept it more basic and been more effective as a result. But yeah, and it kind of takes away from a lot of the interesting setups in the first half of the movie by having all these twists in the second half of the movie, and then getting to the final reveal, the final reveal of the killer, the final twist, if you will, that it has. It's going to turn a lot of people off. I'm not going to lie. Was I completely turned off by it? No, but I didn't necessarily love it either. I will give them the fact that you're not going to see it coming. They're right about that. The first time you watch this movie, it's definitely not, and not in a Friday the 13th way where it's a character that's never been introduced until the end, as it was in the original Friday the 13th. They do better here in that aspect. So I'll give them that much. You're not going to see it coming. If you say that you do on a first-time watch, you're lying. But it's the kind of ending that's very, really, it's very convoluted. It's very contrived. It does make you go back and question the beginning of the movie, which is part of why I want to rewatch it again to see if it actually does make sense. My sense of it is that it's not going to. I almost felt like going into that third act, they realized that the runtime was already over 90 minutes and they hadn't gotten to the end yet. So it's kind of like they had the pacing that they had flowing. They had to throw that aside and say, okay, we need to have this ending now. That's kind of how it felt like to me. And again, it's a very unpredictable ending, but that doesn't mean it's a great ending. It doesn't mean that it's a great reveal. I don't think it is. I don't think it will be for a lot of people. No, some people aren't bothered by it from what I've heard. Like I said, I wasn't completely bothered by it to where it totally ruined the movie, but at the same time, I didn't love it either. Some people act like this is the greatest slasher reveal of all time. No, you're wrong about that. No, just in my opinion. No, you're wrong about it. It almost has a feel like they were trying to just be completely unique and unpredictable as opposed to really sorry, my son tried to sneak in there, as you probably saw in the back left. Where was I going with this now? The ending reveal. It kind of has that where it almost felt like let's have something completely left field and something nobody will ever guess, as opposed to making it work and tie with the movie. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel different on a rewatch, but I think it's going to turn a lot of people off. I've already seen some reviews where people really don't like the movie because of that. I can understand that. All I have to say is Scooby Doo, anyone. Scooby Doo. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Overall, it's a fun slasher movie. It's not a great slasher movie. I think they try to make it too convoluted and complicated, too long as a result, but you can't ignore the performance by Melissa Sue Anderson. She does carry the movie. The rest of the performances are good. It's a well shot, well directed movie with good atmosphere. But they do drop the ball in certain areas. And overall, it's a mixed bag. I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for Happy Birthday to Me from 1981. I'll probably keep this DVD for now. Unless I rewatch it and I'm more blown away by it than I am now. I'm not going to seek out the Blu-ray for this particular movie. But 7 out of 10. So go ahead and comment down below your guys' thoughts about Happy Birthday to Me. It seems like it's a pretty polarizing movie. Like, the people that like it really love it, and the people that don't like it don't like it. They think it's overrated. I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle. I can see why it has a cult following, because it does have a lot of things going for it, but it also has some problems, to say the least. And I recognize both sides of that. So 7 out of 10. Put your rating down below. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series or any of my other great horror content in March and past this series. We're going to take a little break from this series here coming up in March. But with that being said, I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for watching. Hope you're enjoying. And as always, stay scared. Bye.